Vice President JD Vance sent a strong message to Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, urging him to reconsider negotiations as American support for Ukraine faces a significant shift.
What did you make of European leaders, quote, their voices of solidarity this weekend? Because as Lindsey Graham, who's been very supportive of Ukraine in this conflict, he was livid. And he said, if they want to now defend their own continent, let them go ahead and do it. Good luck to them.
Yeah, and my message to Ukrainians, by the way, to President Zelensky is, when you've lost Lindsey Graham, that means you need to come to the negotiating table and recognize Donald Trump is the only game in town. He's the only person who I think has a meaningful plan to save that country. But Sean, here's the problem with the Europeans. And a lot of these guys are our friends. They're our allies. We, of course, the president has a great relationship with a lot of European heads of state, and so do I, but they need to be realistic. And the craziest part about this, Sean, is that sometimes you'll have European heads of state who in public will puff up their chest and say, we're in it with President Zelensky for the next 10 years. And then in private, they'll pick up the phone and say, this can't go on forever. He has to come to the negotiating table. So I honestly don't care what the Europeans say in public. What I care is what they say in private. And what they need to be saying to President Zelensky is, this can't go on forever. The bloodshed, the killing, the economic devastation, it's making everyone worse off. The only pathway to, I think, back to peace and prosperity is what the president is trying to accomplish. And now we look.
My message to Ukrainians, by the way, to President Zelensky is, when you've lost Lindsey Graham, that means you need to come to the negotiating table and recognize Donald Trump is the only game in town, Vance said Tuesday during an interview on Fox News with host Sean Hannity. His remarks follow a sharp change in rhetoric from Senator Lindsey Graham, a longtime advocate for Ukraine, who recently expressed frustration with European allies and suggested they should shoulder more responsibility for defending their continent. If they want to now defend their own continent, let them go ahead and do it. Good luck to them, Graham said. Vance emphasized that while European leaders publicly voice strong support for Ukraine, they privately acknowledge the need for a negotiated settlement. The craziest part about this, Sean, is that sometimes you'll have European heads of state who in public will puff up their chest and say, we're in it with President Zelensky, and then in private, they'll pick up the phone and say, this can't go on forever, Vance said. They need to tell Zelensky that this can't go on. The ongoing war has claimed over 500,000 lives and displaced millions, with global economic consequences mounting. Vance pointed to Trump as the only leader capable of brokering a resolution. He's the only person who I think has a meaningful plan to save that country, Vance stated, without detailing specific policy proposals. The shift in political sentiment reflects growing impatience in Washington over the prolonged conflict. Reports suggest internal frustrations within U.S. leadership, with some officials believing Zelensky has resisted diplomatic off-ramps. Meanwhile, European nations continue supplying military aid while wrestling with economic strain. Economists and geopolitical analysts warn that continued escalation without a roadmap to negotiation could deepen global instability. Michael Davenport, a senior analyst at the Hudson Institute, noted that, while Ukraine's sovereignty must be defended, there is a real question about the sustainability of an indefinite military engagement. With support among key U.S. figures waning, the question remains, will Ukraine adjust its strategy and explore diplomatic options, or will it risk losing more crucial allies in its fight against Russia?